Most of the things that you see on video, on television, are young players with great mobility, great athleticism, plenty of range of movement, strength, and speed. The majority of golfers do not fit into that category. Hi, I'm Peter Knight, and what we're going to do today is we're going to have a look at the things that we can do that they can help young players, but especially as we start to stack on a few more years, our bodies do change. And so what we want to do is we want to try and keep playing golf as well as what we possibly can, which involves being able to hit at least a moderate amount of distance. And here's some of the things that we can do to help us achieve that. The first thing is what I noticed with a lot of players is as they start to age, they start to use their bodies less. I'm talking golf swings. So now that can be partly because of balance, and I'm going to talk about that, but a lot of it is just this general tension that's built up. So one of the things that we can do is to try and feel as free jointed as possible. So when I see players who say, oh look, I'm really tired, I can't turn back at all, if I just get them to, and you can do this as you're watching, is if I just allow my arms to move backwards and forwards this way, and this is what most players do when they first do it. They'll move their arms backwards and forwards, and you can see my shoulders are shrugging as I do it, and I've got no spine rotation whatsoever. In fact, my body's just quite still. Now, the instruction when you're doing this is that as one arm goes forward and the other arm goes back, allow your body to rotate through, your upper body to rotate through 90 degrees. So from here, my arms are going backwards and forwards and my upper body's rotating. Now you notice not only is my upper body rotating, but my lower body is as well. So now my cues as I'm creating that motion are to stay as free as I can through my spine, as free as I can through my hips, and just keep my body soft, be very soft jointed as much as is possible. So now as I create that motion, maybe you can't get your arms to being parallel to the ground, depending on your shoulder mobility, but I'll bet you can get some more rotation through your spine as you do that. So now what we need to do, the golf swing doesn't work like that, so now what we need to do is we need to keep the same sense of lightness through the body and create it more as a golf swing motion. So from here, if I just, first of all, I'm just going to allow pressure to shift from foot to foot, just to get this sense of I've got pressure shifting from foot to foot. Now, as I'm shifting that pressure, I'm also going to allow my hips to rotate. So again, I'm very, very light as I move back and through. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about how this pressure works in a moment. But for now, as I create that pressure shift and my hips turn, and it's important that the hips do turn when you do this, my arms are tracking straight back and straight through as I'm creating that motion. So now it's not like I'm moving my arms, but my body movement is moving my arms. In fact, I don't really feel like I'm even turning my shoulders very much. It's almost, that's a response to what's happening with my lower body. So as this pressure shifts and my hips are turning, that's causing my shoulders to turn, which then cause my arms to swing. So now my body's feeling really, really light. Now, if I immediately put that into play with a golf swing, when I've got a golf club in my hand, just watch your golf brain. Your golf brain's going to go, oh, golf club, I'll just use my arms and my hands. Let's keep the same condition with the body that you had when you're doing those exercises. So now from here, I've just created that same motion with my body. Now it's causing my upper body to turn, my arms to swing, and I just look to increase the range of the motion as I'm doing that. So there's no tension through the motion. Yes, there's not a lot of speed, but my first goal is to increase my range of motion, which I've done there. So now I'm nice and free. Now to further increase that range of motion, if when I'm swinging the club back, the limits of my mobility through my hips and my knees and my ankles mean that as I swing the club back, I actually can't rotate my hips very far before my left heel comes off the ground. Let it come up. So when I swing the club back away from the ball, from here, now I can achieve a good rotation and my body's nice and light. I've created that movement with my lower body, the rotation. It has meant that the movement has pulled my left heel off the ground, no problem whatsoever. A third thing that we can do is actually to look a little differently at the backswing. So rather than thinking I've got to sort of swing the club back with my arms, which limits my motion. I'm using the muscles of my arms to swing the club back. What I'm going to do instead is feel like I'm almost throwing the club away from me to my right. So as I start back, and it's a body throw that's supported a little bit like the arms. So I'll move my club forward, and then from here, I'm shifting pressure onto my right foot. That motion is throwing the club away from me. So now I've got momentum as well as a light body, and allowing that left heel to lift to actually give me an increased range of motion. So now I'm really moving quite freely through a good range of motion, but there's very little tension through my body to achieve that. And of course, we're all going to have different ranges that we can do, but I'll bet you're going to be able to move a little bit more doing that. Now, if we just look at how this pressure is going to move, because this is key to getting us to move correctly. One of the other things, unfortunately, as we age, is we lose our ability slowly over time to stay well balanced. So we can't move quite as quickly, and we also can't move as well balanced. Now, our body's response to that is going to be, well, I'm not going to move very much so that you can stay in balance. So what we need to do is create movements that are likely to enhance our balance. Now, a couple of little things, and this, again, I'll try and make it pretty golf specific. So if I can sort of create like a squatting movement, just to keep flexibility and motion through my hips and my knees and my ankles. If I can only squat a little bit, that's fine. If I can squat more, that's even better. If I can go even lower and come up, that's better still. So I'm actually using pressure into the ground to come up each time I do that. Now I can try the same thing. I won't go as far on one leg, but I'm doing this, but from here, can I balance on one leg and say do a half squat? So now I'm just pushing from one leg and retaining balance as I do it. I'm going to do the same with the other leg. So as I come up, I'm just applying pressure to the ground through that foot. Now I need to make this a little bit more golf specific. So, and again, this is very, very exaggerated. So I'm going to feel like I'm applying pressure to the ground so the center of my body feels like it comes up. Now this is the exaggerated part. I'm going to allow my hips to slide toward the target and down sort of towards my left foot. And then I'm going to push up. So I've got this big, almost U-shaped movement through the center of my body where my hips are rotating around my left leg. My left leg's vertical. I'm dropping, sliding to my right, and coming up, so my right leg's vertical. So I'm creating this movement here where I'm getting this timing of pressure shifting, my body dropping, and then coming up. A good golf swing will have aspects of that movement, not to that same extent, but it will have it. Now, if you have the ability to create that movement through your hips, then we can start to look at how we're going to apply that in the golf swing. So I'm certainly not going to swing the club back and have my right leg move to 90 degrees. That was for the drill only. But I will have this feeling as I'm going back that my hips are turning and I still feel like this right hip is higher at the end of my backswing. Now maybe that's partly because, or mostly because my hips are tilted forward when I swing the club back. So from here, I've got this feeling of pushing up through the right foot, pushing down, and then pushing up again as my club moves to the ground. That occurs very quickly. So the whole downswing, your downswing will probably take somewhere between, or somewhere around about, say, 0.3 of a second, depending on the speed of your downswing. A little bit more, a little bit less, but somewhere around about that time. So we've got this movement where you're dropping and pushing into the ground, all occurring in a fairly short space of time. But practicing that movement and getting the timing of it is the tricky aspect. So again, if we look at the motion, pushing up, dropping, and pushing down. Now most players, when they do that movement, they don't push into the ground until the club gets to about where the ball is. So that's mistimed. So I want the pressure into the ground as the club is still moving toward the ground to create that stability through my movement. So I'm getting a lot more motion. Now other things that we can do is things like having a slightly lighter shaft, maybe a slightly more flexible shaft, although depending on your club head speed, if you've got still good club head speed, but your shaft, it becomes too flexible, it can compromise your ability to control the direction of the shot. But generally, slightly lighter shafts are worth experimenting with. So those sorts of things are really helpful. So now from here, let's have a look, put them into play. I've got this sense of freedom through my body, pressure through my feet, moving my arms, but definitely nice and light. And that's still giving me a pretty good shot, a shot that I can be satisfied with, that I can create still sufficient force in my nearly mid-60s to generate a shot that's going to be quite comfortable for me on the golf course to go and not necessarily have to hit too long a shot. So for my second. So when you're playing those shots, think about, first of all, reducing the tension generally through your body. Think about your balance, and is there anything that you can do that's going to help with stability and balance? And if you have got other things that you do that are going to enhance and maintain your balance, put them in the comments below so that they can be shared with other golfers. And I'd like to know myself what it is that you do that enables you to keep that balance and movement going in your body, even if you're a young player. What do you do? And of course, the players that become more mature, what do you do to keep that movement going? Love to hear what you've got to say. Increase the mobility and maybe increase the distance.